don't recycle anger. That's the first step. You want to make sure if they're angry, you being just as angry is not going to help. If y'all both have reasons to be angry, okay, that's fine. But if you keep doing things as like yelling at them, if they're yelling at you, don't yell back at them. Welcome everybody to the Rally Cry podcast. My name is Angel.
My name is Tyler.
And you guys are here because you want to become aware, learn, grow, all these things that pertain to wellness, well-being, peacefulness, anything like that. Just to let you guys know, whatever platform you're on, if it's a podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, we're on iHeartRadio now. Whatever it may be, just make sure you leave a let us know that you like the video. It gives us feedback. It makes it so that we can help other people, and also subscribe so you don't have to miss out any second of what we talk about. And when we post on Instagram, it's the Rally Cry .podcast, and you can also check us on other platforms. Everything will be down below: TikTok, Pinterest.
Oh, there you go.
Facebook.
Yep.
All those things.
Yep.
We're on everything, so you can't miss us. I'm honestly excited. This is like the best time of the week where we can like come together, talk about things that's important with Tyler, with you guys. And I appreciate you guys for everyone that is listening. We are definitely scaling up, having people come on YouTube, having people come on our social media platforms.
Little by little, one day at a time.
We're slowly, but surely. Right? So if you guys don't know, I'm sure you already seen the title. We're going to be talking about diffusing situations, diffusing arguments, and some tactics to go by, right? We kind of have 5. There's so many other ways. There's so many ways that an argument situation can go. So these are just foundational ways to go by, and we're just going to get right into it, right?
Yep.
So I just want to have some key points. Like, we all had that one person that is so difficult to come into reason with. And it's like we're trying to over-explain ourselves. Mm-hmm. We try to let them know, like, hey, this is not exactly how it should be. Like, the way you feel is one thing, and I'm just trying to let you know and let you, come to clarify with you that, you shouldn't be feeling this way because this is actually what it is. Now, it's important to take in somebody's feelings into consideration. And the reason why I bring up feelings is because when it comes to an argument, it's always in the heat of the moment that emotions are involved, right? And
that's why it gets hot.
Exactly.
Like right now, 90 degrees, pretty hot outside. Crazy.
Yeah, at least over here in Springfield. I don't know where you guys are at. You guys let us know how that is.
Yeah, where are some of our followers located at? That'd be nice to know. Like, what if you live in Pennsylvania?
Oh.
Transylvania. Vampires?
Transylvania? Oh.
Vampires? No? All right, cool.
But if we think about how emotions are, like, we're, like, mentally unstable. So, like, we're not going to interpret everything. We're going to kind of, like, be confirmation bias.
Yep.
Which means that, we're only going to confirm to what we think is right. We're not going to try to listen to the other perspective. We're just going to want things to go the way we think. Like, no, this is exactly like, if I think it's blue, I'm only going to agree with blue. Like that white and blue dress thing that went on a long time ago. Now it's blue. Now it's white and gold. Now it's blue and black. It's like.
Apparently it's actually a psychological test. Like, there's another one where you're like, there's 2 words, but it's like Yanny or Laurel. But the thing is, it goes to show how old your ears are. So I think it's if you hear Yanny, it'll determine that that you got youthful ears, that you have great hearing, basically. But if you hear Laurel, you have you got old ears. Like your ears are aging, like you can't really hear it. So it depends on like how old you are and how well your health is. That will determine that. So that color between the blue and yellow, like it could also be a psychological test.
I wonder how much influence there is on that makes people think that, like, oh, I have old ears. It's like, is that really a thing?
I mean, when you think about it, depending on how our health is and what we do exactly, like that will determine like how our performance is. Because, all right, for example, we can all relate to this on the Wii game, right? Wii Sports. There's an age test. You do all the games in there. You have to do it either in a certain time or you have to reach a certain score, and then they'll average your age on like based on your performance. So like if you do bad, even though you're 14, you could play like a 76-year-old man. Sounds interesting, but you got to think
Yeah.
about like what's the peak peak performance for our age.
Right.
That was off topic.
Yeah, that was off
Yeah.
topic, but I think it was a good filler to adding on to what we're talking about.
Oh yeah.
But going back to like how we know these people that could be emotionally unstable. That's what happens in arguments. It's absolutely natural for that to happen. But is people go in this fight or flight mode? So it's like they're gonna fight for it or they're just gonna run away from it. I think there's a balance between that. I don't think you should choose either or. I think it's important to have some clear head and not have like clouded emotions because you're not gonna think clearly, right?
Or if anything, guided emotions because you don't want your emotions to be misguided.
Right.
And I also want to say I appreciate what you were saying. You said what bias?
Confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias. And it's interesting that you say that because it goes back into when videos ago, a year ago from now, or a year ago today, we were bringing up negativity bias. So the more that somebody's, bias is, stationed towards somewhere, then not only with confirmation bias, but it's confirming that this is why this is why I'm thinking like this.
Right. No, absolutely. That's exactly what bias means, being stationed. That was a perfect way of saying it. As I said, when it comes to unreasonable people, we can't reason with them. If they're being irrational, we can't ration with them. It's more about managing them and setting boundaries. I don't like saying dealing because dealing is like it's just coming at you and you have to like tolerate it and you're dealing with it. You know what I mean? It's in your hand and you're just gonna like, you know what? I'm just gonna deal with this. It's whatever. You know how many times people may say that like I'm just gonna deal with it. It's cool.
And not only with managing, but you could also say that you want to work with them.
Right.
Like you want to work with them, like just how we work with people at our jobs. Like, and rather than saying dealing with them or putting up with them, like, yeah, you can manage them, but then it's like, what makes you think they could be a managerial authority? And people could take it out of context and be like, oh, you think you can manage me? Like, so now I'm just somebody you could work on and tailor to. Or you could say, you know what, okay, how can we work together and see eye to eye? And as we say before, look in the same distance.
I completely agree. That goes in saying, like, you don't want to find a perfect person. You want to find a working person, a person that's willing to work going on forward and, trying to find sustainable solutions to make a more sustainable relationship. When we're trying to, quote, manage a person that is explosive or prone to start an argument, the best thing is to listen, see where they're coming from as best. And this is hard. Like, this is not, it's easier said than done. Like, you have to do these things into practice and become aware on what you don't want to do, what you do want to do. And then when it comes to next time, have a better conversation. It's like trial and error. That is the whole point of relationship. I think we get into relationships in any kind, even if it's someone you're working with, we think that it should just be someone should just get me or someone should just hear me out and they shouldn't have to say much of their perspective. It's just about me. And it's just like, well, then the other person could be thinking the same thing. And if you both are selfless or selfish, then it's a selfish relationship on both sides.
Actually, not even to interrupt you, it's a little bit of both. Because, yeah, somebody could be selfish, which would go towards more with narcissism because they're selfish and full of themselves. But then with somebody that's selfless, they lack the self-esteem to set a boundary and to see what's going on and what's not okay with them. Because, it's kind of like goes back to our last video about nice guys or about bad guys. And with nice guys, they have a hard time setting boundaries, being direct and forward and being able to make points where, like, this is who I am, this is what I do, and how you move speaks for itself rather than you have to explain yourself so much, which we shouldn't have to over-explain ourselves to anybody because it's frustrating as frick to, explain something and you feel like you made it so clear and it's so transparent to you, but for someone to still not understand it and it's like, okay, let me make another attempt of trying to make connection with them. Let me try again about what form of conversation or of my words would be good enough so this person can understand. But is it that you need to change how you're talking about it, or is it that this person isn't creating active listening? Because with active listening, they'd be able to paraphrase some of the things that you say. They'd be able to not only paraphrase what you say, but what's most important is be able to ask questions for clarity. Because if, for example, I brought up negativity bias, and I had to ask you about confirmation bias. I'm actively listening to you, despite the mics. But I'm actively listening to you by asking, okay, confirmation bias, or was it conformity bias? Because I had the word conformity in my head too. So I wanted to make sure. So that shows that I'm actively listening to you by making sure that I heard what you said was right. So that way I know that I can align it back on the train track like the train is supposed to be.
Yeah, it goes back to how we even said, are you listening to me or are you just hearing me?
I'm looking at you because you're attractive.
Oh. I mean, I don't have a haircut yet, but thank you.
Yeah, no haircuts today. No haircuts today.
It's cool. It's cool.
Coffee.
But I think, to break that down a little bit, it's just like when you hear something, it's like listening to music, but you don't know what the lyrics are, right? You just hear the beat, right?
And you just try to piece together what the lyrics are, even though the lyrics aren't in front of you.
You're just kind of listening to how you're hearing how it sounds, and it's like, oh yeah, this beat's dope, blah blah blah. But then when you're active listening, is where you're actually hearing, listening to the lyrics itself. And it's like, okay, this is what they said. Oh wow, that's deep or whatever.
It's completely different once you know the lyrics that they're talking about.
And then along with the beat, if it correlates together, oh yeah, you'd be like, damn, this is bussin'.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I actually
don't
lie. What? Yeah, all right, yeah, I'm gonna lie to you guys. Huh? So this morning I was driving, right?
Oh, no.
And literally,
oh my,
I was on the radio and I was letting it play, and then I heard SZA's song "Kill My Ex." And what's crazy about it is that, like, the cadence and the beat is so good, but then when I played it back a little bit, I'm like, yo, that was bumping. But then when I heard it, I'm like listening to the lyrics, and I'm like, yo, this is the last thing I should be listening to, and like actually be bumping. Like, I just killed my ex, and I think it's probably not that good. I just killed my ex, and I killed his girlfriend. I'm just like this just sounded like you couldn't like get over it, and it manifested so dangerously that like you had to indulge in something like that. Going as far as, I mean, there's people in real life that actually do that. They can't forgive their ex, and it's like, it's either you're with me or you're not.
Yeah, I think that goes into what we're talking about, like, as far as, like, communication. Like, I think when we listen to music, it's like, yeah, we get it. We know what they mean. It's not being literal, but I think we talk so much in shortcuts that we just think that someone should just get it. Like, oh, no, I know what I mean. You should know what I mean. It's like, well, I mean, okay, I do know what you mean, but the way you talk is important, right? And it was like how you were saying, the way you talk and the way you say it, both are important.
Both are just as important.
Exactly. So it's like whatever words you say, it means to exactly what you mean by it. Like those words have definitions to it. Mm-hmm. And adding to a sentence makes it a lot more clarifying to what you may mean, depending on what you're saying, right?
And also, like, you got to think about how many stages, like, how fast is going on in our head, but how many staging processes that these words and these thoughts have to go through before it comes out of our mouth. Because for us, it's just like, it's instantaneous that we just think of what to say. But we got to think about in our head, that inner voice, like, okay, the inner voice is basically the last stage of defense. Like, is this going to be the final result of what's going to come out of this boy's mouth? You know what? All right, I think it sounds logical, has some stupidity to it, but we're going to go with it. We're just going to wing it. You know what I mean?
I'm just going to wing it. You know what? I think I know what I'm doing. I might not have a license to drive it, but it's cool.
But yeah, and it doesn't take away from how we say things, because how we say it is important. But what we say is just as important. Because, like, if I was to, or if anything, it also goes with this phrase, too. There's a time and place for everything. Not everything has to come out right then and there.
I be saying this.
Like, exactly. We all be saying this.
No.
But we don't take.
Most, but not all.
Yeah. Most of us be saying that. That there's a time and place for everything. But we don't acknowledge how often.
What it's gonna take.
Yeah, you heard that? Like, going crazy.
Wait, you're connected to Bluetooth?
Maybe.
Take it off.
Hey, that wasn't supposed to be on. You know what I'm saying? Just like,
no, just take it off your phone.
Yeah,
boy.
You know what I'm saying? But it's funny though, because like I didn't expect to hear it.
Yo, that was like, was it? You basically. It's like a photo bomb, but it was like an audio bomb. My bad, guys.
I mean, hey, what if I had it planned? I had an alarm going off on purpose.
He just wanted to show off that he got,
Yeah, I got a ringtone, you know what I'm saying?
You got a little ringtone right there. You just want to be fancy with it, you know what I mean? So, but hey, that was just a little distraction. Yeah, that was a remix. I like that. Yeah.
But yeah, back to the point. Basically, that there is a time and place for everything.
Yes.
That's where what we do say, we have to think about how is this person going to process this, because we got to think about, like, saying something that might be okay with us. We don't know how that person may react, and their body language, like, doing that face could be like, oh, they're showing disgust. They might not like how that sounded. But, yeah, time and place for everything, and what we say, how we say it, important.
Right. And so I think some of you guys that may be listening or watching us on YouTube, if you are, might be thinking like, well, why would this benefit me for like learning how to diffuse situations and going on for further? And it's really to say, well, like learning how to diffuse situations helps you with your own well-being. It builds assertiveness and allows for effective communication when done correctly. Like this works for any relationship, if it's friends, families, people you work with, and your significant other. The more you know of someone, the easier the situation can be diffused correctly for both parties. Effective communication works differently for everyone, but it requires patience. And you might ask, well, how do I have patience? How do I claim patience? And in a nutshell, just don't have expectations. That's just in a nutshell. When you have patience, you don't have expectations when things should come by. You don't think, oh, they should be here sooner, or we should be in this part in the relationship already.
Yeah.
Just don't have expectations.
Or if anything, like naturally, it's easier said than done. So even if you do have expectations, it's the idea of like how can you disassociate yourself from your feelings on top of that, because expectations, we're gonna want to expect certain things, and like I learned from my job, consistency leads to predictability, which then leads to trust. And once again, that is another positive way of saying I have expectations, and this is why I'm like this, and this is why I expect you to be this way, or I expect life to be this way. But we have to understand that not everything is organized, or not everything is set in motion to play out the same way every day. So the ability to adapt, and once again, as our last episode, I mentioned the word adapt, being able to adapt at all times is extremely important. Because if you can't adapt, how can you evolve? How did we get here? And believe it or not, side note, just to get off topic, did you know there's a theory that the reason why we come from monkeys and everything like that, and why we evolved to this stage in human evolution, is because what if monkeys, right? What if they ate psychedelic mushrooms and they started thinking deep, and then eventually the more that they kept doing it and eating the plant, because mushroom is a plant or a fungi, they got high, started thinking, and then they eventually had the ability to talk, because monkeys can talk, so can dogs if you teach them, and if depending on like how their brain can process it and how it is being able to use their voice. Because another example, we can all sing, all of us can sing. I can't sing. Is it me you're looking for? We can all sing, but we got to practice. We got to utilize that vocal cord in order to sing.
The last few months I've been working on me, baby. There's so much drama in my life. Let me not get into it. Hey. But I think that's a valid point. I mean, that makes sense. It sounds true. I know there's people that be like, we didn't come from monkeys. Woo-wah. But, I mean, what can we really believe?
The Big Bang Theory. We were made in a nanosecond.
Adam and Eve and stuff. So I think everybody have their belief systems and stuff. So, but I would like to get into the 5 tactics that we can get into.
5-finger discount.
There's so much more that you can implement in diffusing situations, arguments, however you want to call it. This is kind of a step-by-step process that we kind of truly believe, and it could go on further. It could have some flexibility to it if it's different for you guys, to whoever may be listening. I hope this can help somebody if you are in a relationship, or even if you're out of a relationship. This is going to help you not come off so impulsive when it comes to having arguments, disagreements, and not be so emotionally attached to them, so that you have this effective communication. And so the first one is don't recycle anger. That's the first step. You want to make sure if they're angry, you being just as angry is not going to help. If you both have reasons to be angry, okay, that's fine. But if you keep doing things as like yelling at them, if they're yelling at you, don't yell back at them. If you're yelling at them, stop yelling. That's not going to help. Pointing fingers, mocking, teasing, cursing, it doesn't make it any better if you give it right back. Fire and fire doesn't work.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, you toxic.
Nah, I'm just thinking about like Avatar. Fire and fire does work. It just creates a bigger fire.
Yeah, it creates for a bigger fire, and we don't want a bigger fire. So we're trying to diffuse the fire.
But what if it's cold?
Man, fire ain't gonna work.
But all right, so what do you do at a campfire at night when it's cold?
Well, it's not. We're not at a camp. We're trying to be in a home where it's sustainable, so we don't have to face the consequences of the outdoor.
This is not a home without my baby.
You could sing. Was that The Weeknd?
Yeah,
I felt
after
it.
hours.
I felt it. So don't anger.
Don't recycle anger.
Yes.
I agree 100%. And it's like, think about how easy it is, because impulsivity is a major thing that we all have. Emotions is what make us so powerful, but then also make us so weak.
Absolutely. I agree. It's like, that's why we always say it. Everything needs a balance.
Mm-hmm.
Everything needs a balance.
Can't be perfect, but I have a word of the day, so I'm waiting to the end of the episode.
Oh, stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
That's step number 1. Step number 2, after you can be aware not to recycle your anger, be calm. Just have a more calm head. Try to take a couple deep breaths. Take 4 deep breaths in. Hold for 4 seconds. Let go.
And make sure your exhale is longer than your inhale.
Yes.
They say it's a lot more effective to bring down your anxiety, bring down any like impulsive, aggressive emotions that could be fueling you.
Yeah, so like, let's say right now, we could do it right now. Let's do it together, right? So if you guys are listening, you can do it with us. So breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold 4 seconds. Let go for 4 seconds. And the more that you do it, the more you could be calm. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do it in this in this situation, but the whole point is trying to find peace in the chaos. That's step number 2, right? I think if you can't not be calm, you won't be able to think clearly with a clouded mind, as I stated. Usually the results in saying words you don't mean, and we all heard that before. People say, oh, I didn't mean to say that. It's like, well, you didn't mean to say it, but you did say it.
And if anything, that's kind of like, what's it called? Oh, it's like a reaction. It's like a refractory period type of thing, where it's a reaction based off, like, they know they messed up by saying this, especially based off our reaction. But then you also got to think about how when we're mad, or we're just like so pent up with emotions, as Angel mentioned before, we're not letting oxygen get to our brain. So we're not thinking clearly. So now immediately, the moment where things start going south and we start breathing again, oh, I didn't mean to say that. I know you didn't mean to say that. I wouldn't say that, but it's also because you weren't thinking.
Yeah.
And it sounds messed up to say it like that, but if we're mad and we're being impulsive, if we're aggressively sad, we're mad about something, and now we're sad about it because it's lasted that long, we're ruminating on it that much. Now here we are being like, I didn't mean to say that, but look at how much turmoil and destruction you've caused with just your words.
Yep. Absolutely agree. I think to add on, the reason why we become mad is because we have like an emotional ladder, right? Mm-hmm. And as straightforward, when we're sad, being angry is a form of a relief from being sad.
Yep.
So if you think about it, you're sad, you're depressed, and you're like, damn, like, I don't feel good, I don't want to do anything. But after a while, you're tired of being sad. Yep. So then you use something else to get you out of being sad. Sometimes people do other things. We can all say the people might go out to drink. You try to use overuse of dopamine to satisfy them and, sweep under the rug of what they actually feel. Yep. And after they do that, they then realize it was just a temporary feeling, and then they are back to being sad again, and it could be leading into a more depressed setting for them. And now you're becoming someone you don't want to be, because that's what depressed means. You're depressing into an emotional state of not well-being. And now you're like, damn, I don't feel like myself right now, et cetera, et cetera. And we just need to understand, like, that emotional ladder.
And it's manipulating yourself into this delusion because of how you feel. Because to an extent, like, you're so out of place with yourself internally and mentally that, like, your whole body starts working against you. Like they say, when you're depressed, your immune system gets weaker. So if you're not even feeling good, your body isn't feeling good. And, like, our brain naturally wants to protect us from everything that could hurt us. So when we're mentally ill, like being depressed, you got to think about how, like, everything else just starts falling down. People start overeating. People start talking bad about themselves. People start having a negative view on life. People start eventually spreading that to other people. And as you mentioned, it's the idea of like, when you ruminate so much and then you want to sweep things, or not even want, but you naturally now sweep things under the rug all the time, there's no resolution. So now that you see that there's no resolution, now you know what? I might as well be uneasy all the time. I might as well feel as if like, everything's just so unsettling that I can't be calm about things anymore. So
Yeah, I would like to also change one thing you said there, which instead of saying manipulating yourself, I would say manifest.
Or diluting.
You can say, like, there's so many ways, right?
Yeah,
You can say it. But yeah, I definitely agree. Like, you put yourself in this position to fail. You know what I mean? You set yourself up for these kinds of thoughts.
Yep.
And if you keep setting yourself up for that, you become pessimistic. And that's the whole point of being optimistic, is not ignoring the bad things. It's about trying to be grabbing what is good out of it, regardless of how detrimental it may have been, right? So number 3 is establish boundaries. So we did don't recycle anger, 1, be calm, 2, now 3, establish boundaries, right? I believe establishing boundaries is huge, and I make this the 3rd step because we can be calm and not use our anger, but we need to make sure that when we're trying to have this communication, just because I'm being calm doesn't mean that I should allow for disrespect at the end of the day. I should not allow for it. And when someone crosses the line, it creates disrespect, and it's not looking, again, that's what disrespect means. And when you allow them to disrespect you, it puts you in the position where it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to be calm and I don't want to tell them not to do this to me. So now I don't want to fuel in the fire that they're coming at me like this, and they're already being emotionally unstable. So it's just like, I don't really know what to do there. But it's important to be assertive. And how can I be assertive? Here's an example. And I wrote this down and I thought this was interesting. And if you think anything of it, you could add on to it. I can see that you're upset, but I do not appreciate how you're speaking to me. It isn't fair, nor for you or me, to start disrespecting each other. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
And that's just universal. I'm not saying that's going to work for every situation, but if you could get the context that I'm giving, it's just to say, I can see that you're upset. I don't want to say I understand.
Yes.
I want to say, I see that you're upset. And I know we're having this conversation, but this conversation is not going to get any better if you keep cutting me off, if you're disrespecting me, or you're calling me names. It's just not going to work. And if that person keeps trying to call you names and keep disrespecting you, that's where we get to our last step. But we're still going to go into our 4th step. So I want you guys to keep listening and make sure if there's anything that's helping you out right now, just leave a like. That would greatly help us out and try to help other people out. Our 4th step is don't assume. Why don't we assume? What do you mean? Like, I don't know exactly.
Okay, technical difficulties. But
Hey, no worries. The camera cut off again.
It's
cool.
fine. It's because you want to know what it is? We're just so alluring and bright that we're making this light look weak. And you know what? It just needs a break. So that 5-second break just there, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's cool. So, I mean, as I was stating, the 4th step is don't assume. And you're probably like, what do you mean don't assume? Like, I don't know what you mean. It's like, it's hard to tell what could be the reason of an argument sometimes. It isn't personal to you, even it might imply that to you. There could be other add-ons to the factor. And you don't want to think that, oh, they're being like this because of other reasons. Oh, maybe it's their mom, or maybe it's what they're going through with school, or maybe it's because it was his family, or maybe it's friends. You just don't want to assume, because when you assume, you only try to justify this is the reason why they're acting this way. You don't exactly know what's going on. It could be a little bit of you. You don't know where it's coming from. So that's why it's important to listen, right?
I need you to run that back. What was that word that starts with a J?
Justify?
Say that again.
You don't want to justify? You don't want to justify it on the fact of why they're angry. because then that puts you in a position that you just think you know, and you don't know. That's the whole point of why you're arguing right now, because apparently there is no eye to eye, and y'all not on the same page, so y'all are in a disagreement. So when it comes to this disagreement, you just don't want to assume. You want to let them tell you how they feel, and going on further with that, and with that information that they give you, you can do something with, like, putting it back up together. The same thing when you have an instruction manual, you have these instructions so that you can have a better, like, piece of furniture, right?
Yep.
And that's just an analogy. When someone is emotionally unstable, I mean, they won't come to reason why they are behaving in such way. And when it comes to someone else, we usually disposition them. And what I mean by dispositioning is, like, if I'm the one that is angry right now, right? I try to disposition the other person saying, oh, it's because you don't care, or it's because you don't want to really listen to me, or anything like that. You just try to basically justify, but technically speaking, you're dispositioning them, because you're just saying that it's just for that reason. Now, in my term, I would say it's situational. I'm arguing because, I'm hungry. I had a long day. I had a lot of things that made me lose my patience. I didn't have a good day at work. I'm tired. All those things. So now I'm putting myself in situational context by saying, this is the reason why I'm angry. This is the reason why this is happening on situation. But with the other person, I'm just putting them in this position. It's just you don't care.
Right.
It's not like I can put them in situational term and be like, oh, maybe they're not listening because I'm coming off angry. Or maybe because I'm doing certain things that's disrespecting them. You just try to justify on saying it's just because they don't care. Now you're putting them in disposition. You're taking them out in the position on the fact of what they're in. So you're taking them out and be like, oh, yo, no, it's not because of what's going on right now. It's because you just don't care.
And I find it interesting that you bring that up, because, and I really like that, that you bring up how, assuming goes this far, because it goes into the context of, accountability versus responsibility. And when it comes to both of those things, with accountability, okay, you have the awareness to acknowledge what is in front of you, what you've done, what I've done, what is the situation we're in, and also probably being able to paraphrase and ask questions in return. But with responsibility, what are you going to do about it? What action are you going to take to resolve this? Because now we can't undo the past, but, like, what are we going to do to move forward to be better people, make better decisions? And create a better life. Because now it's like, how do we adapt? How do we continue, keeping this graceful peace that we've worked for? Because now there was just a little bit of chaos, as you mentioned earlier. And now it's like, we don't want to stay in chaos, but it's easy to stay in chaos, though. We don't want to, but it's easy to. So it's easier said than done. But also, how much do you want to? How much responsibility are you going to uphold so that way you can get out of this and get back to what you truly desire?
I like how you bring that up, like the difference between accountability and responsibility.
Yeah.
That might have to be another episode, of, like, breaking that down and the differences between them, because that was bussin'. Bussin'. I want to get to our last tip.
Ooh, last tip. What is that? And we
can conclude. And, after, 1, 2, 3, and 4, don't recycle anger, be calm, establish the boundaries, and don't assume. But then, after taking all those steps, more importantly, take space.
Ooh.
Taking space is important. We care to resolve the issue then and there, but that isn't always the case. Either one or both people require space to come back calm and collective. Sometimes things cannot be addressed with emotions flurrying. We should have a calm down and reflect. The space can help both partners to really think on their situation and have better, effective communication. Sometimes there isn't a solution, and we're walking away. Walking away is the best option until they come to realize for themselves. It's their responsibility to come into reason. Because when we go into this kind of disagreement, we're all eager to resolve it. And unfortunately, that's not always going to happen. We have to give each other space. If it's not working, we're just going to have to, you go home, I go home, whatever it is, that situation. If you guys live with each other, then, y'all just take each other away from each other. If you're go to your friend's house, go to your family's house, sleep on the couch. I mean,
whatever's considered your quality time, especially like what do you like to do to like get back you? What does Tyler like to do to get his energy back up? What does Angel like to do to get his social battery back in place for the rest of the week? Well, like what do you do? What brings peace, and also what is something that feels like it could fuel you, whether it's gaming, just and not necessarily get yourself out of this world, but gaming or going for a walk.
I think something that I think that would definitely be better to go for a while. I wouldn't suggest gaming because now you're giving yourself a distraction. You don't want to do anything that is a distraction. You want something that goes within thinking for yourself, within your feelings and your well-being, and come to a reflection point. I'm like, okay, this is how I was. This is how I was feeling. Why was I feeling this way? Why was she feeling this way? Could it be for other reasons? From everything that she or he told me, what could it be? You know what I mean? And, going for a walk is the best thing. I personally love going for walks, especially if it's good outside. It's definitely a good way to give yourself therapy. Some people might like meditating. I like meditating when I can. It doesn't have to be for so long. But it's just having that clear connection for yourself.
For me, I have an old man way of doing it. So I like sit. Oh, my back. My neck and my back. I have an old man way of doing it by sitting somewhere. And for me, preferably, if it's like on a bed or let's say if I'm sitting on grass, I like sitting with my legs crossed. And it's almost like I'm meditating, but I can still be active, like looking around, but I'm just thinking out loud.
That's an old man?
Oh, well, at least with the chair, because I was thinking about like, oh, shit, a rocking chair. Like, oh,
if you said rocking chair, I would understand what you meant by
or reference. Sitting on the porch like an old dude, because you got the old heads that...
You got your shotgun? Get off my lawn! Get off my lawn!
Go on, get!
But yeah, anything that gives you the common collective perspective. And sometimes, like, it's not always going to work in your favor. Sometimes when you give space, it allows for the other person to give themselves space. Like, it's almost like inevitable because you need that space. And if it puts them in the position where they need to take space and they don't know what to do with it and they disrespect you when you say that you need space, then that's where you might need to walk away. You know what I mean? It really depends on what the situation is. And the reason why I say that is because if someone is still disrespecting you and still is not giving you what you need so that you yourself can come back and have a better conversation, because it's one thing if they can't have a conversation with you, right? Yep. But at least you can do the benefit for yourself where, like, you don't put yourself in a detrimental situation where you become exactly what you say you don't like.
Yeah, putting yourself, you can walk away.
Yeah, like you don't want to keep fueling to their fire, and then you becoming that person, and you're not gonna want to deal with that.
And as we said earlier, flames are gonna mix together.
Yeah, and you don't want to become the flame. You don't want to enter the flame. You just want to make sure that you diffuse it and not put yourself in a unstable situation where, like, now you're unstable. Two unstable people are not gonna work. But at least the benefit, if you're stable enough and the other person is unstable, let's say, then you can try to come into a resolve. But it's definitely more important if you both can come to a calm collective mindset. That's what's going to make a better relationship. That's what's going to be sustainable. So it's just the point of, I believe that's the last step. Regardless of diffusing the situation, it's important to have a space after it.
And I appreciate you saying that, because for those of you watching or listening, you may ask yourself, why do I have to be the bigger person? Why do I have to diffuse the situation? Why do I have to walk away? Why do I have to take on all this responsibility of managing the situation so it could be better for the both of us when I could just care about myself? Now, the thing is, that's what sucks about being mature. That's what sucks about being responsible. You got to choose the right thing to do, because it's always easy to do the wrong thing. It's always easy to do the wrong thing. So by taking that initiative step to, you know what, I could walk away from this. I don't need to do this. I know this person's hurt. They're trying to hurt me as well. Let me, you know what? Let me help them find that Band-Aid on their own. Let me walk away. Because that wound is not going to get any better by still putting salt on it.
I completely agree, man. And I appreciate everyone that was listening. Whatever platform you guys are on, make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe so that anytime we post, you guys don't miss a second. We appreciate you guys. I think this is a topic that we should, talk a little bit more with our friends.
Revisit, for sure.
And if there's anything that really stuck out to you, let us know in the comments, on social media, anything like that. It definitely will help out. And yeah, tell your friends, family, share this with someone. Maybe it can work out for if you're in a relationship, if you're not in a relationship, if it happens to be at work. This is something that can apply for yourself, and you could be that bigger person like Tyler was saying. And sometimes it's just unfortunate, but it's going to be beneficial to you.
Yep.
I hope you guys have a great day. And until next time, y'all be easy.
Y'all be breezy.
Peace.